Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. Today we're going to be talking about the big man up on the screen. We're talking about Doublelift. So, obviously, him and TSM had a super weird offseason. Doublelift talked about how he was maybe considering retirement, especially once Bjergsen retired, how the thoughts definitely crossed his mind, but he decided to come back. You know, he wasn't ready to be done yet. He had stuff to come back and prove. He didn't want to end his career 0-6 at Worlds, yada, yada, yada. He still wanted to make it out of groups. He was still driven. But then, obviously, him and TSM had a little bit of a falling out. There was some butting of heads between the different support choices and stuff, and he didn't want to play with he didn't want to play with certain supports. He did want to play with others, and then TSM finally just decided that, hey, they were going to move on. So Doublelift decided to retire. This is obviously when TSM got lost, and the rest is history. They bring in Sword Art, and that's how it goes. But since then, in the lock-in tournament, TSM did not look great. I think they went, 3-4 overall, and people had them maybe rated as the third or fourth best team before, and now they're maybe fifth or sixth in a lot of people's minds. And after all the money they spent this offseason, that's probably not going to cut it in the eyes of TSM management or in the eyes of TSM fans. So in this video today, we're going to be talking about should TSM maybe consider giving Doublelift a ring and calling him back up. But before we get into that, I just want to mention real quick, if you're not already subscribed, definitely click that subscribe button really quick. It's fast, it's free, it's easy. Helps you guys stay up to date on all my latest content. We've been getting the numbers up. Only 69% of the people that watch my videos still on a regular basis are not subscribed anymore. That number is way down from like 75% before, but it still shows that we have so much room to continue growing. Just even if the people that watch my videos right now subscribe, let alone getting out to other audiences and stuff. So I would appreciate that a ton. Also, drop a like on this video if you do enjoy my content, if you want to help support my channel, help me out a ton with the YouTube algorithm. With that being said, here we go. Getting right into this one. Again, talking about Doublelift and TSM. So, if we take a look at TSM's games so far in the lock-in tournament, they were up against 100 Thieves. In the first game, they got absolutely stomped. Lost was just, I mean, he was just a non-factor overall. I recall that he kind of got bodied pretty early on in the lane. People were really kind of confused by the Zaya pick. A 0-1-0 game for him, nothing too crazy there. And then against Golden Guardians is another game where TSM probably should have lost. Obviously, they ended up getting that crazy Baron steal. Lost with a 4-1-5, has a pretty good scoreline in this game. But, you know, he's up against Stixay and Newbie, who people would kind of consider to be one of the weaker bot lanes in the LCS. In this game, this is against Wild Turtle and Smoothie, another really weak bot lane, and a good showing for Lost and Sword Art. Sword Art absolutely popped off hard, carried this game in a 7-1-6 for Lost. But then in the other games against Team Liquid, they kind of just absolutely got stomped with a 1-5-0 from Lost, but nobody on TSM really did good. And then in the Cloud9 series, this is where people really started asking the most questions, because this is really where the most people watched. You know, this is knockout stage, this is Cloud9 TSM, two huge fan bases, a lot of people watching it. It was honestly the closest series out of the four as well. This is the only series that went to game 3, so it got the most people watching it. And this was a bad time for Lost to look as bad as he did because, again, in front of the biggest audience, he did not look great. This was, in Game 1, he went 3-4-9, and this is a game where TSM looked pretty good, looked pretty dominant. He still did not look very well. Yes, this is against Sven and Vulcan. This is a great bot lane from Cloud9, but, again, there's a lot of good bot lanes in North America right now. Liquid, Cloud9, 100 Thieves, even Evil Geniuses is looking pretty good now. And if TSM wants to make it to Worlds, if they want to be a top 3 team, they have to at least be competitive against these other bot lanes. In Game 2, Lost with a 2-2, again, really just a non-factor, non-existent, and then in this last game, 2-5-3, where he had a pretty poor showing. So obviously, you know, a lot of people have been overreacting to that, saying that, you know, Lost needs to be replaced. We need to call up Cody's son. He needs to get his chance. Lost sucks. Why are they playing him? Blah, 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 blah. And then a ton of other people coming to his defense saying, hey, it's just a preseason tournament. It doesn't matter. It's a long future. You know, you got to develop talent. These things take time. And I do agree with both sides completely. One, I think Lost has been very disappointing so far. He has just flat out not been good enough. And when you're not good enough, it is fair to bring up these questions of, should you be replaced? Should we consider bringing somebody else in? Are you maybe not cut out for the LCS? Do you need more time in academy? These questions are fair. But I also get the people saying, hey, it takes time to develop talent. You know, you got to give people time and all that. And I think that's great as well. But just because you give somebody time to develop does not necessarily mean it's going to work out. I think myself and a lot of other people believe that you have to have a certain baseline of talent to even be able to develop into something great. And not everyone develops from year over year, from game over game. I mean, just think of like a guy like Mike Young, who came in lighting the league on fire, and he got progressively worse as he played. I mean, we see young players coming in all the time that do not necessarily work out right away. Also, TSM is not really in a rebuilding phase right now. Yes, they lost Bjergsen. Yes, they lost Doublelift, and these were two, of the LCS GOATs, and it's going to be hard to rebound from that. But if TSM was in a rebuilding phase and looking to kind of build ahead towards the future, towards next year, whatever, then they wouldn't have dropped the money that they dropped on Sword Art. What, $3 million or whatever, $1.5 million per year, something crazy like that. I can't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, but that shows that TSM is trying to win kind of in the short term. And I don't think that means you should sacrifice your future for that. But that means that you do need to find somebody that's at least, capable of kind of holding things together for the time being. So, again, yes, Lost look great in Academy, but just because you look great in Academy does not mean you will necessarily be able to move up to the LCS. And yes, I think it probably is a little bit too early to completely write him off or anything. But the point we're talking about Doublelift is that I've been getting a lot more comments. I've been getting a lot more messages on Twitter and stuff, in tweets saying, yeah, I bet TSM's missing Doublelift right now. Hey, I wonder what Doublelift's doing. Hey, do you think they should, hit him up or whatever? And I get where people are coming from, because Doublelift has this insane track record. For a while, the meme was whoever has Doublelift is going to win the LCS title, and they're going to get to go to Worlds, and that's always super, super fun. When you're a fan, you want to see your team doing well. You want to see your team winning. Doublelift, he's said previously, even when he's taking a break from competitive, that he has that fire and drive to keep playing. That's the only way he's happy, is if he is competing and playing and trying to do his best. Where he's an insane streamer where he makes a ton of money and probably has a ton of fun streaming as well, but it just doesn't scratch the same itch for him. So, it's kind of got both of the sides where, like, hey, TSM needs an AD carry. Hey, we know Doublelift doesn't exactly love streaming a ton. So I get where people are coming from. But with that being said, Doublelift did not exactly look great last season. I mean, think back to Spring Split, where he had a very, very slow start to the season. He wasn't the only reason that Team Liquid struggled in the spring, but he was a large part of it. And that was with Core JJ as his support, probably the best player in the LCS, and that was rough. But then, obviously, he comes back in summer with TSM, starts to look a little bit better. Honestly, he gets put on Senna duty a lot, which is not really your traditional AD carry. Also, really, really helps out with the team, making plays and stuff, and he did start to look better at that, but that's not really, it's just one style. But Senna's not in the meta right now. Those supportive style AD carries aren't necessarily in the meta right now. And Doublelift, was kind of getting hard bot diffed in some series as well, especially against, Golden Guardians with FBI and Huhi. So there are some questions. I don't think Doublelift is necessarily just, would he walk into TSM right now and just absolutely change things? The one argument there is that TSM now has Sword Art, who's probably, in my opinion, the second best support in the LCS. You could say Vulcan's better than him too. I wouldn't argue with you too much there. But I would also argue that Sven helps Vulcan look a lot better. And man, Sword Art is really being held down by Lost right now. And what would Sword Art and Doublelift look like? That would be really interesting. I would be very curious to see. I don't know exactly how it would look like, because we saw Doublelift in Core last year, and at times it didn't look great. But then, obviously Doublelift has gotten a little bit better since that spring split. Maybe he'd be able to bounce back. But yeah, I don't know. In the end, it's just a bunch of crazy scenarios and situations. But I did want to bring attention to people these stats from Lost in the tournament so far, because a lot of people are saying, hey, chill out, it's just a preseason tournament, calm down. It's a preseason tournament for everybody. Like, just because you're looking bad in the preseason tournament, that does not necessarily mean you're devoid of criticism, or you can't be criticized or anything, because it's a preseason tournament for everybody. And if you're a young AD carry looking to prove himself on the LCS stage at the LCS level, you should be one of the people trying your absolute hardest. Like maybe a guy like Power of Evil, who's kind of proved himself already and he's around the block, or like Perks or somebody like that, doesn't need to take this the most seriously. Lost is 100% taking this as seriously as he can. So I don't really think the preseason tournament is an excuse. If anything, he should look better during the preseason tournament, because he's trying his absolute hardest to prove himself and gain an LCS spot, and some of these other guys could care less about the lock-in tournament that does not affect their career at all, in any way, shape, or form. Also, Lost is getting to play with Sword Art now, who, again, like I said, I believe is a top 3 support, probably a top 2 support in the LCS. And man, I'm just thinking, what if Lost was on another team right now? What if he was laning with Smoothie on CLG? What if he was laning with Newbie on Golden Guardians? How much worse would Lost look then? Like, there's a chance that this guy's maybe just not an LCS AD carry. And some people, no matter how much time you give them, no matter how many scrims they get in, no matter how many games they get in, are not going to become LCS level 80 carries. And yes, I get it. People are saying they've only played a few games, but they played, 7 games? The LCS regular season is only 18 games. He almost played half in LCS regular season split. There's not that much time once a real season starts to get better. Yes, you're getting to play a ton of scrims. Yes, you're getting to do all that stuff, but they've been scrimming for a couple of weeks now. I don't think we should write off Lost yet. Yes, I'm fine with them giving him a couple weeks of time, but say it's the 3rd week, say it's the 4th week, say TSM's like 2-4 or something. I think the questions and criticisms do start to become very, very fair, especially when you have a guy like Doublelift who's a free agent, you have a guy like Cody Sun in Academy, guys who have proved themselves a little bit more at the LCS level and probably deserve a shot more. So again, when we take a look at these stats, We see KDA, losses towards the bottom, 2.2. He's ahead of Neo, Keith, and Wild Turtle. Keith's an Academy 80 carry. Wild Turtle was just running it down. And also, CLG only had 25% win rate. TSM had a 42% win rate. KDA and win rate go hand in hand, because if you're losing, everyone's dying more often, and if you're winning, everyone's dying less. So the fact that Lost has, kind of a KDA down here while his team is almost at a 50% win rate, that's a bad sign. As far as CS per minute, Lost was dead last. That is a horrible sign. Gold per minute, Lost was second to last. Again, only ahead of an Academy 80 carry. Kill participation, Lost is dead last. That is not good, especially when he's playing a lot of Jhin, a champion who can get some very, very easy kill participation from, 3 screens away. Damage percentage, he is, second to last, only behind Keith, who again is an Academy 80 carry. Damage per minute, second to last, only ahead of Keith, who is an Academy 80 carry. When we take a look at the laning stats, it doesn't get much better. Gold differential at 15, he's third to last. CSD at 15, he's fourth to last. XP differential at 15, he's second to last. I mean, Lost in this tournament just absolutely did not cut it. He was not good enough flat out. And yes, there was a ton of other young players in this tournament who maybe didn't look great. Some of them did, some of them look good. There's varying degrees of young player. Just because you throw in a young player, that does not mean, hey, we're building for the future. There has to be somebody who actually shows the promise and shows the talent. Because again, there have been people who walked right into the LCS and dominated from day one. Do you have to do that? No. And there are people who, after one split, they get better. After a year, they get better. Whatever. Again, TSM is not really in rebuilding mode. They went out and spent a bunch of money this offseason. We know Power of Evil's not cheap. We know that Sword Art wasn't cheap. Huni probably was pretty cheap, but other than that, they were spending a lot of money on people. And yes, I do like them, giving young talent a chance and giving them a chance to build toward the future. And Lost is getting an opportunity. But if you do not make the most of your opportunities, esports, and League of Legends esports specifically, moves fast. You get one split probably. You get maybe if you're lucky, you get 2 splits to really prove yourself. But if Lost continues to play like he did in the lock-in tournament in Spring Split, especially throughout the entirety of the Spring Split, don't be surprised if Cody Sun is in there. I don't think they're going to be calling up Doublelift. I think that would be that's a last resort, because I don't really think Doublelift does anything for them, because even though he wasn't going to retire this offseason, he was considering it in the next year or two. And I think TSM needs to think longer term than that, where a guy like Cody Sun maybe could be their 80 carry for the next 2 or 3 seasons. But TSM does have a bright future ahead of them. I love that they have a lot of young talent, like a guy like Spica. He is young talent that TSM has given time and a chance to develop. But he also showed a lot of promise early on, something we have yet to see from Lost. So again, I don't want to overreact just from the lock-in tournament, but I don't think it's unfair to give some reaction to the lock-in tournament and to say that Lost needs to step it up, and he needs to step it up quick. Otherwise, he's in trouble, and this entire TSM team is in trouble. Top 3 make it to Worlds. Right now, TSM does not look like a top 3 team. But that is pretty much it for this video today, guys. Definitely drop a like if you enjoyed it. Again, it helps me out so much with the YouTube algorithm. I would appreciate it a ton. Also, leave a comment down below. What do you think TSM should do? Should they start Lost? Cody Sun? Should they hit up Doublelift? How long of a leash should Lost get? What week would you consider maybe making a swap if he's still not looking good? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Subscribe to stay updated on my latest content. Hopefully, catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace!